Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran Carlo Prater. Carlo, how are you?
Doing pretty good.
Carlo, you got a fight coming up May 31st at Legacy FC 20. How's training been going for the fight?
It's been awesome, man.
Is today the last day of hard training?
No, last hard day was yesterday, so, we're about a week out. Weight cut and everything, so I'm just tapering off right now.
Mm-hmm. Who have you been training with, and where have you been training at in preparation for this fight?
I train in Brazil with some people down there. I give class down there, and I train with all the worthwhile people I can. And then when I'm here in Houston, Texas, I go to Metro Fight Club with Main Street Boxing.
Mm-hmm. Now you're going to be fighting Carlos Diego Ferreira. What are your thoughts on him as an opponent?
I think he's completely mismatched, but I respect him for taking the fight, and he seems to be a big ground fighter, and my hat goes off to him for taking the fight.
Mm-hmm. Do you say outmatched because of the wealth of experience you have over him, or do you say outmatched just based on what you bring to the table and what he brings to the table?
Both.
Okay. And now, is this fight going to be at 155 or 170?
No, it's 155.
Because I saw an article out there that said it was going to be at 170, but I thought it was 155 because you guys both fight at 155. So, and Carlo, I also heard a rumor that this deal that you have with Legacy is just a continuation of the deal that you had when you fought Cameron Dollar. Is that true, or is this a completely new deal?
To my knowledge, it's a completely new deal. That was a one-off fight 2 years ago, so I'm looking forward to hopefully turning this into something a little more longer term if it works out for me.
Mm-hmm. So currently it's just a one-off again?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I see. And now, is the plan to stay at 155? Because, should you win next week, Legacy has a great number of welterweights out there. George Patino, he's the champion. Jeff Rexroad, he's the interim champion. Dan Hornbuckle, Pete Spratt, Evangelista Cyborg, a lot of great welterweights in Legacy, but is the plan to stay at 155, or would you be open to taking one of those fights?
No, I'm a 155-pound fighter. I mean, I've gone, I think it's 4 years now at 155 pounds. I only took the Eric Silva fight last year because it was a short-term, a short notice deal, and that was going to get my foot in the door with the UFC anyway, so I just beefed up, put on as much weight as I could in 2 weeks before the fight, and still really didn't have to cut any weight for that fight. I walk around at about 175 pounds during a training camp, so I'm really small for welterweight nowadays. Everybody's walking around 190 or up, and I feel really comfortable at 165 pounds. The cut's no big deal to me, so I'm really comfortable at lightweight.
I see. Now, Carlo, when you were released from the UFC, a lot of people thought that maybe you were going to sign with ONE FC or World Series of Fighting just based on the relationship that your manager, Jason Chambers, has with those organizations. Was that ever an option, ONE FC or World Series of Fighting, or were you not really looking to get tied down with, one of those organizations because your goal is to make it back to the UFC? Is that the case?
No, honestly, I'm willing to fight for any promotion that's going to treat me well. You're right. I would have hoped that Jason would have, put my foot in the door over at ONE or WSOF. But at the same time, I understand where he's coming from. They just want he wants me to put together a nice strength, and then we can approach different works. But I really don't have my long-term goal past my next fight. I mean, I always try to keep things in perspective, and I've got a date, and that's May 31st, and then we'll see what happens after that. I try to keep it all relative to the next fight that I've got coming up.
You were 1-2 in the UFC. The one win was a DQ win over Eric Silva, and the other two, the Marcus Sylvester fight, I thought you won that fight, but judges, the way the sport is now, who knows what they're thinking. So that was one loss, and then the TJ Grant was the other loss. You were released after those 3 fights. What went wrong for you during that time? I'm sure you thought long and hard about it over these past couple months. What went wrong for you during your UFC run?
Well, Eric's fight, he broke rules. Watched it, rewatched it. I was there. I felt the nastiest stinger I've ever felt in my career. Off the back of the head shots. We can dispute that all day, but I was in there. I was the one that went to the hospital that week. I was the one that has, the nasty, shocking sensation of the stinger going down my right arm. I know what I felt. I don't need to prove it to anybody. He broke the rules. Unfortunately, it was really unfortunate. After that, I felt like I really had my back against the wall, so I tried to change up my training camps and do as good a work as I could. The TJ Grant fight didn't work out very well for me. He's just an awesome fighter, and I sort of underestimated him, his pace, and my hat goes off to him for that. The Marcus fight, same thing. I should have gone in there with a different game plan instead of trying to get the submission right off the bat. But I'm really positive. I look towards the future. I don't try to dwell on what happened in the UFC or anything. I'm very grateful to them for giving me, me the shot. If I wasn't able to come up with the wins that were going to validate my stay in the division, then I'll do whatever it takes to get back there on my own steam. I've never had anything given to me in this career of mine. I've tried to earn it all, and I'll just have to earn it again. And I honestly, I really don't have any remorse or any spite towards even the UFC or my opponents. It was just on me. Mm-hmm. I think we, as men, we have to own up and fess up and be responsible for our own actions. And I could have won those 2 last fights, but I didn't. And they were better than me that night, and that's all I got to say about it.
Mm-hmm. What did it feel like, working your way up all those years, fighting all those fights, and you finally do make it to the UFC, and then to have it be over in only 3 fights? How did it feel to, work all those years and then it be gone so quickly?
Well, I couldn't think of it that way, but, it just lit a fire under me even more, and it made me want this even more. So, I'm only 31,
mm-hmm.
and I've got
definitely.
plenty of road ahead of me, and that might just be the fire that that lit me and set me on a more convicted path towards glory. I've had 2 fights since then. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull up with the win in Japan. That was heavily influenced by my opponent here in Naka being the hometown and promotional golden boy for BTJ. I would definitely like to fight him again at some point. Because that 3rd round, basically all that happened was he got my back on on a scramble on the very beginning of the round and just held it for the last 3rd round. So we were tied rounds at that point. I would love another fight with Hironaka one day, but then after that I won again in January, and so I'm looking forward to hopefully winning this next fight and going to another this year and seeing what I can get done for myself for the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. How big of a setback was that Hironaka loss? Because you're trying to get back to a bigger show. How big of a setback was that? Or do you feel that it's really not that big of a setback because, like you said, maybe some hometown bias or promotional bias was, caused that decision? How do you feel about that?
Well, honestly, I respect Hironaka and everything. I just, I feel like I could have done a couple things differently in that fight. It would have, changed the result for me a little bit. But at the same time, I'm not pessimistic at all about what it did for my career or anything. In that sport, no one has a perfect record, and if they do, well, it's only a matter of time before they do inevitably lose. This is a sport you either win or you lose, and that to me, honestly, that doesn't have much standing on if you're getting better or worse as a fighter. Just that's
Now, you did have the DQ over Eric Silva, so that got you the 1-2 record, but the other fights were losses. There's been a lot of guys who have done great, like yourself, on regional circuit or smaller shows and then get into the UFC, and that success doesn't translate. Guys like Jay Haran, John Alessio, all great fighters, but it doesn't translate once they get into the UFC. What is it about fighting in the UFC where only a small percentage of guys have that success, even though they might have come from a different organization and doesn't translate over? Is it the pressure of being on the big stage? Is it the competition is so much better than the rest of the world outside of it? What is the reason why we don't see the guys who are on the regional circuit who have been dominating everybody? Why hasn't it carried over?
Well, I mean, that can go both ways. There have been several people that, after they get, cut or whatever from the UFC, they don't have very much success outside of that either. Mm-hmm. So I don't think there's really any organization in the world that has a monopoly on all the talent. There are some of the greatest fighters in the world in the UFC, but that's not the only organization in the world that's got some of the best fighters in the world. I mean, it's just another event, the way I look at it. But yes, there's an added amount of pressure and all that. There's that element, but I wouldn't say that affects anybody, conscientiously going in there. We all want to just give our best because that's the sport's pinnacle promotion. But at the same time, I wouldn't say it, it affects anybody, with like first-time hitters or anything like that. Mm-hmm. We should be all consummate professionals at that point, and we should be wanting to fight there anyway. So I really don't see that being a factor. It's just, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sort of thing. And you can also lose in a regional promotion as well. So, that's all I got to say about that,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, when the UFC released you, did Joe Silva tell you or your manager, the traditional speech of go out, get some wins, be exciting, and we'll bring you back? Is that what you got?
Not really. I haven't heard anything like that. But, I'm just taking it that, I respect Joe and his ability to put together great fight cards and everything. And, I know that he has respect for me and what I've done in my career, and I just want to be able to get back there on my own steam. Obviously, that's my goal. But, I would die a happy man if I never got back as well, because I'm proud of what I've done in my career. But I'm definitely not done. I've got many more years left, and honestly, I just now I'm starting to realize the potential that I have in this sport. And so there's no hard feelings whatsoever. And I believe that, yes, with a nice little streak that, I might be marketable again. I might be, another UFC shot might be validated. But that's all going to start on May 31st. Mm-hmm.
If you do get another opportunity to fight in the UFC, what are some things that you would do differently?
Honestly, I try to fight to please. I try to stand up. I try to go for submissions. I don't try to grind anybody out and just take the safe way out, winning round by round. That's not the style of fight that I have. I mean, my record alone speaks for that. Majority of my wins are by submission. I honestly, I don't think there's anything I could do differently. It's just sometimes the results of the fight don't correspond to the work we've put in, and that's just the nature of sports.
Mm-hmm. Now, you fought twice since the Levesser fight, your last fight in the UFC, but a lot of people, this is going to be the first time that they've seen you since you fought in the UFC, because I don't think a lot of people saw the last two fights that you've had. So, with that being said, on May 31st, what are you looking to showcase in this fight, and what kind of improvements are you looking to showcase to the people who probably haven't seen you fight since you last fought in the UFC?
Well, honestly, I just want to go out there and do the best I can. I've had a great training camp and had a great, last several months of my training. My body's not backfiring on me. Last year I went through some injuries just because I was going through such concentrated fight camps leading into my Marcus Levister fight. At least I went in there with a couple of injuries that were waiting for, that had been growing for a while. I addressed those during the end of the year, and now my body feels 100% healthy and fine-tuned. I just want to go out there and have a great fight, put on a great show, honor the main event slot that Legacy gave me once again, and that I've been throughout most of my career.
Carlo, last question. How did you get your nickname Neo?
That was a long time ago. He gave it to me, I think, in 2002. Eve Edwards, and I don't know. Everybody's got to have a little nickname or a little marketing point in the sport, and it sort of stuck. And I had Eve Edwards to take for that, and I'd also like to wish him luck in his upcoming fight against Spencer Fisher, a guy that we have in common in our career. So I know that all the Eve Edwards, that nickname, I really don't know why. I think it has something to do with the Matrix. I was really big in the Matrix series when it came out, and I think it has something to do with that.
Oh, I see. Carlo, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, sure. Once again, thanks a lot, Mike, for the opportunity to talk to you on MMA Talk Out Radio.
Sure, thank you.
And also, thank you. And I'd like to thank my coach, Saul Slees. Never left me. He's always believed in me and keeps pushing me daily. His gym here in Houston, Texas, Metro Fight Club, Lou Savarese, and all the boxers over at Main Street Boxing. Cerrado MMA in Brazil, and Espírito da Luta, two brothers, Jiu-Jitsu in Brasilia, RFT Luta Livre in Brasilia. My Muay Thai trainer in Brasilia, Crew Nielsen Jr., ammo2go.com. They've been with me, for the last 3 or 4 years of my career. Super Chongo, Tattoo, Apex Sports Agency. I've been blessed. I have great friends and some companies that have stood by me no matter what, thick and thin. I appreciate all the fans and support, and I would like to thank my friends and family and fans and all the supporters out there. You can follow me on Twitter at @the1MMA, and check out my newly revamped website, carloprater.com, whenever you can. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Carlo, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck May 31st at Legacy FC 20 against Carlos Diego Ferreira.